Have you ever felt like you really want to like change things up,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
but then you're like, how do I even get started?
It can feel overwhelming for sure.
Totally. And so that is like the exact place that we're starting from for this week's deep dive.
Okay.
We're looking at this habit changed my life in just 1 month.
Interesting.
And, I got to be honest, I was a little skeptical when I first like saw that title,
Yeah. No
but
kidding.
there's some pretty fascinating stuff in here.
Yeah, what stood out to me was how the source really dives into the psychology
Yeah.
of how we build habits. Like, it's not just about giving you tips and tricks, it's about why those things actually work.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting and potentially helpful for people.
Totally.
Because it's not about like this huge life overhaul, right?
Right.
It's about these tiny changes that you can make.
Little tweaks.
Yeah, subtle but really powerful shifts.
Exactly.
So we're not talking about like, quitting your job and moving to a different country.
Yeah.
We're talking about like actually incorporating these habits into your daily life.
Absolutely. And I think that makes it a lot less intimidating for people.
Definitely. And so speaking of subtle shifts, the first habit that we're going to dive into is embracing boredom.
Okay, that sounds a little counterintuitive in today's world.
It does.
We're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation.
Yeah.
So the idea of actually seeking out boredom,
Yeah.
it's not something that comes naturally to most of us.
And the source actually talks about like scheduling.
Wow.
Do nothing breaks.
Wow.
Like literally blocking off time in your calendar
Really?
to just sit and be.
That's fascinating.
No phone, no distractions, just being present in the moment.
I'm curious to hear how that worked out for them.
Well, it turns out it was like incredibly transformative for them.
That's amazing.
And there's actually neuroscience to back this up.
Okay.
When we disengage from all of that constant stimulation, the emails, the social media,
all of it.
our brains enter this state called the default mode network.
Interesting. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, and it's linked to all these like really cool things like creativity, introspection, problem solving.
So it's like giving your brain permission to just wander and make connections.
Exactly. It's those quiet moments where our minds can like really make those unexpected connections and come up with like fresh insights.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so it's not just about like feeling less stressed. It's
Yeah.
about actually tapping into a different mode of thinking.
Right.
And I can see how that could lead to more clarity about your goals, your priorities, even like how you make decisions.
I can see that.
Which actually brings us to habit number 2, the one-touch rule.
Okay. I like the sound of this already.
Yeah, it's all about making decisions quickly and efficiently.
Tell me more.
So the source describes it as like literally only touching something once.
Okay.
If a task takes less than 2 minutes, you do it right then and there.
So, like, answer an email right away, put away a dish, send a quick text.
Exactly.
It sounds almost too simple,
I know it does.
but I can see how that would make a big difference.
It's not even about like the time it takes to do the task itself.
Right.
It's about the mental energy that we waste
Oh, yeah.
carrying around this like to-do list in our heads.
It's a mental clutter.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like
Right.
all those little things just weighing you down.
It's draining.
And so this one-touch rule is all about like freeing up that mental bandwidth.
I see. So you can focus on the more important stuff.
Exactly. Like the things that actually require your like deep thinking and strategic planning.
It reminds me of that productivity system, Getting Things Done,
Oh yeah, GTD?
by David Allen. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's all about getting those small tasks out of the way so you can focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly. And it makes so much sense because those little things, they can really add up
They do.
and they can really drain our energy and prevent us from achieving those bigger goals.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've tackled the mental clutter. We've embraced boredom. Now, what about those big, ambitious goals?
Oh, yeah, the ones that can feel a little scary.
Yeah, the ones that make you want to like crawl back into bed and hide.
Uh-huh. I know the feel.
So that's where habit number 3 comes in, chunking.
Chunking. Okay, I've heard of that, but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
So the source argues that we often get overwhelmed by like the sheer size of our aspirations.
That makes sense.
We're so focused on the end result,
Right.
which can feel so far away.
Yeah, and then you get discouraged
Exactly.
because it feels impossible.
And we forget about all the little steps that it takes to actually get there.
So instead of trying to climb Mount Everest in one go,
Right.
you set up a series of base camps along the way.
Exactly. You break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And each of those chunks becomes like a mini goal in itself.
I like that.
So you're constantly like achieving these little wins.
Building momentum.
Yeah, and it keeps you motivated and it prevents you from getting overwhelmed.
I can see how that would be really helpful.
And the source also talks about the importance of celebrating those mini wins.
Oh, that's important.
Not just like checking them off a list,
Right.
but actually taking a moment to acknowledge your progress and how far you've come.
It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
keep you going.
And it's not just about like feeling good. It actually helps to rewire our brains to
Yeah.
associate effort with reward.
Interesting.
So it makes the journey more enjoyable and it makes it easier to stick with those habits over the long term.
That's really cool.
So we've got these 3 deceptively simple habits:
Mm.
embracing boredom, the one-touch rule, and chunking goals.
And they all tie together so nicely.
Right.
They're not about like massive overnight transformations. It's about making these small intentional shifts that can have a ripple effect on like all areas of our lives.
Exactly. It's about those little tweaks that can lead to big results.
It's fascinating how these habits, although they seem unrelated,
Yeah.
really complement each other.
Right.
Like when you embrace boredom, it can spark your creativity. And
Yeah.
then that can help you figure out what goals you actually care about.
Oh, yeah. And then the one-touch rule helps you clear your mind so you can focus on those goals.
Right.
And then chunking helps you break those goals down
Yeah.
into smaller steps so they don't feel so overwhelming.
Makes perfect sense.
It all works together.
And it makes me wonder, if incorporating these habits for just 1 month can have such a noticeable impact on our lives.
Right.
What kind of transformation could be possible if we practice them consistently?
Over a year.
Yeah, over a year or even a lifetime.
That's a great question. Something to think about.
Definitely something to ponder. Which of these habits are you going to experiment with first?
Oh, not sure yet.
Yeah,
They all sound so promising.
I know, right?
Tough decision. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Wow, that went by fast.
I know, right? Time flies when you're having fun and exploring fascinating habits.
It does.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.